Undoubtedly, the story that God has used to impact me the most is that of Cristina from Brazil. I started sponsoring her in 2011 as a 10-year-old. During the year, I received a letter telling me her uncle had been killed and the family had to move away. I prayed for her with urgency, and not 2 weeks later, I received an email from a Compassion employee named Haley. She and her husband had been visiting their sponsored child in Brazil, and Cristina had shown them a letter that I had sent her. Haley took a photo of Cristina holding the letter and sent me some pictures and videos of the project and community. This was God's answer to my prayer, letting me know that Cristina was safe and being cared for by Compassion. This insight into Cristina's life and community really impacted me, and God caused my heart to ache for Brazil above everything else. She lives in Fortaleza, which is a tourist city in the north of Brazil. Unfortunately, with the tourists comes drug-related trouble and child prostitution. I ended up sponsoring 12 children from that area in Brazil and have so far visited twice. The first time I visited was in 2012. I met Cristina but was unable to visit her home because the family were in hiding and living in a different community. I was told that her uncle had died in a drug-related incident, and another uncle had decided to kill a member of the gang as an act of revenge and ended up in prison. Their new community did not have a compassion project, so her parents were going to withdraw her from the sponsorship program. If it wasn't for a project worker named Victor picking her up on his bicycle, we would no longer be connected. They also kept Cristina enrolled because of the close relationship we had developed through sponsorship and because I was coming to visit her. Cristina was shy and quiet during our time together. At the project I watched her sing and dance and play with the Australian football I brought along. In a special moment I was able to give her Sam, one of my childhood toys, as a gift. I wanted her to know how valuable she is to me and especially to God. When I returned to Brazil in 2013, I made a special request to visit Cristina's house, even though I knew what I would see and experience would be hard to take. To get to the house, we walked down a narrow rocky path next to a stream of sewage. I tried to imagine living here with no other options or no way out. We came to her house, which was very well secured, and met her parents and some other relatives. I was greeted shyly and cautiously. I really wanted to know more about what the family had been through, so I asked her mother, but she understandably didn't want to dwell on their situation too much, having had one brother murdered and the other one in jail. As we talked, they gradually started opening up. This is what I found out. Cristina is one of 11 people living in a one-bedroom house. The fence surrounding the property is topped up with broken bottle edges and barbed wire for protection. Neither of her parents are able to work because there are simply no jobs available in the community. They live off a small allowance from the government, which is the equivalent of about $25 a week. The house they are living in belongs to her grandmother, and when she dies they will be at the mercy of other extended family members. The community is incredibly dangerous. They cannot leave the house after 7 p.m. and can't leave the kids at home alone any time. There is marshland out the back which floods when it rains. Cristina's mother was 13 when she had the first of her 6 children, and her oldest son had recently had a baby with a 14-year-old girl. The more I heard of this family's situation, the more I wished I hadn't asked. On the surface it was an utterly hopeless tale. The extent of their dreams for their children are to be able to move to live in a different, safer area. This was survival and existence at its most raw. I was staggered and stunned at what I was hearing, yet I was still on my feet. Right now there was no happy ending with a bow and a cherry on top. For the first time in my life I came face to face with true hopelessness, and it was horrifying. The question that screamed at the front of my mind over and over was, where is the hope for these people? As we walked back up the rocky path past the sewage stream, 1,000 things were going through my head, and yet I was composed. Halfway through lunch, the reality and the tragedy of what I just witnessed hit me hard, like a hammer to the gut, over and over again. I excused myself, walked outside, and cried out to God. I can't even remember what was said, but I was just shell-shocked. I begged and pleaded for him to intercede on behalf of that family and my precious Anna Cristina. God had to remind me of my own words to her. They're mine. I love them so much more than you do. Trust me. The thing that struck me is that despite the harsh reality of Cristina's life, when I asked her what she was worried about or afraid of, she shrugged and said nothing. I got the sense that she has a quiet confidence in the protection of her parents, despite their inability to provide materially for her, and also in the compassion staff. She has been shown enough love over her time at the project to be secure in the fact that God loves her, no matter what else happens in her life.